Green Lantern issue 3, Jeremy Adams writing, Zermanico on the art. So, there was a slight blemish on this, just in the fact that end of issue 2 did a cliffhanger get into Night Terrors, and if you did skip the tie-ins, and I didn't skip them. I mean, I only skipped the second one, but this issue doesn't like sort of answer what happened at the end of that plane or how they get off the plane. We're just we've moved on. Things are just continuing.
It gave us an anyways.
Yeah. So I think that'll be quite awkward in the eventual collection.
Yeah.
But so it starts off with a little flashback. This is back when, so we've been getting these flashbacks each issue of like when he got his powers back, and the ring's failing him, and he's fallen. It's a gorgeous page, this full page spread of him falling above the clouds as the sun's rising, and he basically has to like try and just like get his willpower to make the ring work. He's just trying as he's falling to his death.
Effectively, he has to jumpstart the ring with his own willpower, which I like because it's reestablishing Hal as this guy that has a different relationship with his will than some of the other Lanterns, right? So he gets this mystery ring that keeps shorting out on him. It won't let him leave like the planet, right? Like it's when he's getting up into the upper reaches of the atmosphere that it kicks off. And then instead of having like to charge with the battery, he's able to kick it back on by just force of will.
Yeah, obviously the last possible second before he splats on the ground, as you'd expect. And then he also notes that it works more like Abin Sur's ring, where he can make constructs that aren't just green, because he does a green one, and then he does a pink one, and then he actually makes one that is pretty much lifelike. We can still tell it's a construct because it's got a green glow around it, but it's this deer that has actual, fur, colored appropriately, all that stuff. To the point where a cheetah, whatever it is, comes out and tries to eat it, and then Hal makes it 10 times as big.
Massive.
And the cheetah shits itself and runs away.
So that was a thing that I wasn't aware of. Like, I know the Green Lantern ring has done many things over the decades, right? Not realizing that.
Well, hold on. Before you say anything, I've got a pretty good sneaking suspicion here that this whole Abin Sur's ring could do this, and that made it special. I've got a funny feeling that was a retcon later on to explain all this stupid shit Hal did with it in the Silver Age.
That's what I was going to say, because Jeremy Adams is a student of the game in the way that Johns was, right? So I could see him taking something like that and canonizing it. But finding that out, and again, that's what makes this ring unique. Like it's able to phase shift the colors, right? That's why it's able to mess with the frequency, and that's why the color changes and whatnot. And it's also, to me, taking it away from the emotional spectrum, which I feel like we need a break from.
Oh, sure.
So, so to establish that Hal can do other, not just green constructs with this ring, but kind of make holograms. I think that's a pretty fun twist on it. I
am fine with visual trickery. Where I draw the line is when he makes a construct that can do something. So, he should never be able to make a flamethrower that actually fires real fire. Right. That's where I draw an absolute line there. I hate that shit.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, because how does Alan Scott's work then? Because this is the green flame. Right?
Well, yeah, but that's a green flame. That's
okay.
Okay. That was just my example. Okay, how about a bomb that actually explodes? No. He can make the shape of a bomb. He can make it look like a bomb. He can even simulate an explosion with it, but he can't just leave and let it blow up. Like, it's not going to. It's not a working. I always go back to the T-1000. He can make knives and stabbing weapons, but he can't form complex machines that actually function and do things.
Right. Which is ironic because he himself is a complex machine.
Hal? No. He's not complex.
No, Hal definitely anything but complex, as we see later. That boy cannot take no for an answer.
No. He's a simple boy. Yes. So we come back to present day, and Sinestro, who we know is around, storms into this skyscraper to speak with these two bigwigs, and it turns out they're aliens who are here in hiding. And Sinestro Well, first of all, he tries to threaten them with the power of the Legion of Doom, and my reaction to this was like, Sinestro, what are you talking about? The Legion of Doom has been gone for ages. And sure enough, these aliens say, wait a minute, the Legion of Doom is not exactly a thing anymore, Sinestro. What the hell are you talking about?
Yeah, so, Luther's in jail. Who knows where the rest of them are? You're here. You're looking like a bum.
Yeah, although I will say, this hologram that he pops open of the Legion of Doom, punchlines like right next to Lex Luthor, and I'm like, come on now, let's not pretend she's like up there with, you know, the whole point of the Legion of Doom is that it's mostly the nemesis characters from each of the heroes. Like punchline, like I don't care about her being on the team, but let's not pretend she's in the main 7, if you will.
I feel that was just a shout out to Tynan from Adams, right? Or Zermanico, maybe. Who knows?
I'm just, like, I mean, I suppose technically I don't see a Joker, so maybe she's there to replace the Joker, which I guess makes sense, but still. But basically, he wants to get a team, and he blackmails them with information. He's basically like, "I'll tell the Justice League if you don't do what I say."
Well, not just the Justice League, but whoever these aliens are, they're part of a bigger thing. Right? He's like, "You don't want me to run and tell them that you guys are messing around here, right?" So yeah, they decide to work with Sinestro instead of against him.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's not so much that he's going to tell them. He just says that telling that the heroes will lead to them finding out, because they're here in secret, not only just from Earth, but also whoever they're running from, whoever, So they basically give him a team, and it turns out to be like King Shark. Is that the Shaggy Man?
I have to relook. I read this early in the week.
There's an octopus and then a green dude. I didn't recognize the green dude and the octopus. I might not even recognize. Yeah, King Shark's the only one that stuck out as being really one that I knew for sure. Which does lead to a great panel here. So basically, Sinestro's using this team to break into Ferris Air. For unknown reasons. We don't know why he's doing it, and we don't even really know by the end of the issue why he's doing it. But there's a great panel of just like security guards' legs sticking out of King Shark's mouth. And that gave me a good chuckle. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah.
So, all good. But yeah, he breaks in to where all the jets are, and we don't see what he does. He just smiles and says "perfect," and that's the end of the scene. So we don't know what he's done, and that's still up in the air for the rest of the issue. No pun intended. So Hal's at a baseball game, pitching for some kids. And he kind of manipulates the ball a little bit so that the kid who's batting hits a home run.
But who has no confidence. His name's Stewie. So, Hal kind of gives him a softball so he can look cool in front of his friends, which I like. That's a very Hal Jordan thing to do.
Well, it's not just a softball. He literally changes because it's a construct ball, and he literally changes the trajectory at the end so it'll hit the bat properly.
That's what I mean by a softball. He gives it to him right where it's gonna hit.
I know, but like a softball is just something anyone could. I'm just saying it's specifically using his powers to make it. He alters the path so that it'll hit properly. So sure enough, he hits a home run. It's a whole thing. But Carol texts him and says they need to talk. And Hal, being the idiot he is hoping this is her begging to get back together, because of course that's what Hal Jordan thinks. And I think my favorite thing about this whole issue, honestly, is that when Hal shows up at the airbase and he gets on this jet with her, and they sit down in their seat, she whips out the security footage of the airbase and says, "Hey, 3 of my employees were killed last night, several more were injured," and we see this digitized security footage of what is clearly Sinestro. And my favorite thing about this issue is how the tone of their conversation and Hal's attitude completely changes once he sees that Sinestro's around and involved. Because the way he sits down next to her, he stops flirting, he stops making jokes, he just promises that he'll find him, and then there's a moment of silence and he says, "I'm sorry." And I felt that weight in the conversation. It's like, okay, this was all fun and games, me trying to win you back, but I'm not going to pussyfoot around here. This is serious that he's here, and let's face it, I agree with you, this can't be a coincidence that he pops up right after I came back. So, this is something that I have to deal with. And my only complaint of the issue, probably, is that it ends really abruptly after this. Hal's at a bar, and Sinestro just shows up and says, "Hello, I hear you're looking for me." And that's the end. Like, that feels too sudden to me, given that Hal just found out he was around. But it's a minor quibble in the grand scheme of things, but it's the only thing in the issue that I don't really like that much. Everything else I was quite into, but I really like that conversation on the plane.
Yeah, because everything, as soon as he shows up and he's like, "Hey, where's Nathan?" Who's her new fiance, and then she says, he's finishing up the deal with the Pentagon. And I was like, "Oh, great, we got contracts. You're doing contracts again. This is awesome." And she just kind of has to snap him out of his little Hal Jordan charm fest, and then that's when they get up onto the plane, and he sees that footage, and Sinestro, with whatever laser gun he has, looks right at the camera before he takes it out.
And she points out as well that nothing was taken. Like, nothing seems to have been stolen. So, I mean, I guess the assumption I would have is that he sabotaged some of the planes or something, or he wanted to see something that was on the plane, like flight record or something. I don't know. Like, I don't know.
It was definitely sending a message somehow. Yeah. Right.
But I think, like you say, Hal shows up and he's turning on the charm. It's almost like one of those scenarios where someone shows up and they're cracking jokes, but the other person is about to tell them that someone's died. And obviously the tone has to change once that information comes out. That's what this felt like. But here, the purpose was to sell you that Sinestro being here is a big deal. And as far as Hal and Sinestro stories go, I've basically not seen anything with those two connected to each other since the end of John's run, because I wasn't reading Green Lantern Corps. I was reading Green Lanterns during the early Rebirth. I wasn't reading the other book. So I'm excited to finally get back to that and see what they do with it here. I hope it's not just a straight Sinestro's being an evil. I hope it's a bit more complex than that. I trust Adams probably is doing something more complex than that.
Yeah, because the thing I do like about Sinestro is I'm not a big fan of the constant need to rehab villains, right? But the fact that Sinestro used to be the Green Lantern and he believes in order so much, right, is that you can talk to him into doing like heroic things and not being that dictator version, right, that we see, and the guy that overtook Korgar, and just the fact that he's kind of like this fallen mentor for Hal, and that when they team up, they can do good things, So I'm hoping that's what more of this is. Like Sinestro has a plan, and the plan's not to be dastardly, right? He's not twirling his mustache. He's actually trying to cause some type of change, and he is going to need Hal for that.
Yeah. Although he was letting his goons just kill people, so like it's not like his hands are clean either.
No. But that's the type of character Sinestro is. He's like, you gotta break a couple eggs to make an omelet.
Yeah. It is interesting. I'm curious to see what they do with this. It's a shame we had to take this 2-month break right after issue 2, but I did enjoy this issue. Like I say, him showing up to talk to Hal that quickly did feel quite so. Like, I almost wish it just ended on the moment after the "I'm sorry." Like, I know, I know it's a page or 2 pages early, but like I almost think that would have been a better ending, and then you could start the next issue with Sinestro just showing up to talk to him. That would have worked better for me, I think, than doing it the very next page.
We could have filled those bar pages with Kilowog. Like, what's he up to? Living out in his trailer.
Well, other than cheering at the baseball game.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, just give a little character beats there.
Yeah.
And also, like, nothing against Philip Kennedy Johnson in this story. I don't hate having the backup, but I kind of just want more of this Green Lantern story without the backup.
Well, yeah, we're on the backup now. To be fair, though, I actually like this backup the most of the 3, because this one revealed some context that was missing up until now. So you've got John Stewart in this all-green kind of version of him with this rookie Green Lantern, and the rookie's narration is basically, this is the best, I grew up wanting to be John Stewart, he's the best that ever lived, all that stuff, and he's fighting this evil bitch.
The Radiant Dead.
No, what's the woman's name?
The Revenant Queen.
Revenant Queen, the leader. So he's fighting her, and she escapes, right? And then this John Stewart turns to the other guy, and they basically explain that she just escaped through the multiverse to a different universe. And this is where we realize that this isn't the future. This isn't like our John Stewart in the future. This whole story that we've been seeing that we've not really understood that much is actually an alternate universe, because the little cliffhanger here before it cuts to our John Stewart is that, hey, you have to go through and find this other Earth and find this other version of me, because wherever the Revenant Queens went, she'll be going after that John Stewart. She'll go after him. And that's when it cuts to John Stewart, like, on a call with Guy, talking about, trying to be there for his mom, and the fact that he's still kind of like, she can tell that he's missing the stars, that he's missing going off and being a Green Lantern, but he's trying to be there as she's like in her sort of final years. So I actually really like this in the sense that I like what it's set up, even though it doesn't necessarily make up for all the kind of like dull fighting that was happening before that I didn't really understand. But
I feel if that was like a one shot, or that was the issue 0 of the War Journal, I think it would have read a little bit better.
Probably, yeah.
These chunks.
If it wasn't split up into the 3 chunks, yeah, that's probably true. It still probably wouldn't be amazing though, but I think this ending, because it defines some context and sort of solidifies how of the John in present day, which turns out to just be John in our universe, how he connects to the rest of the story now, which is the truth is that he doesn't yet. Like, that's what's going to happen in the main book. I think that's made me more excited for this story, and now that we have this context, the good thing about it is that when the Revenant Queen shows up, or this like alternate Earth Green Lantern shows up to talk to John, John's going to ask all the questions that we want to ask. He's going to say, who are you? Where are you from? Who is this evil Revenant Queen? Why is she a threat? We're going to get all those answers now, because our John Stewart's going to have to ask all those questions.
Right, he's just as blind as we are.
So honestly, I think this story is probably going to be quite good now. It's just that this 3-part backup was a bit weird, and it was hard to get into it because it was kind of holding its cards close to its chest. But that said, I do think this 3rd part was easily the best one, because it clearly set up what this is going to be. It made me more excited for it.
Yeah, the idea that Philip Kennedy Johnson's playing with the multiversal villain for a Green Lantern character, I can't think of any others. So that makes me excited to read. Like, a lot of the Green Lantern stuff has just kind of been all playing in the same sandbox. So the idea that he has this, the Radiant Queen who can create the Radiant Dead, it's almost like this zombie horde type villain.
Also such a different thing that's going on with Hal, which is really nice. It's like, he's fighting, John's going to fight a multiversal enemy that's got these sort of necromancy powers, and Hal's dealing with Sinestro and like staying in Coast City. I love that they're going to be so different. This has made me really optimistic about this book that's about to start with John Stewart. Obviously we trust the writer because he's very good on action, but this has made me really, because I think the issue is that the first 2 parts of this, and even half of this one, are basically like, if this was a movie, they would be the opening scene where you'd get a little bit at the end of a war, and then like the villain would escape, and it would be like, okay, this sets up, this is like the prologue scene to what the actual story is. But splitting that up over 3 like little parts just made for a really confusing, hard to remember. It
over-serialized a serialized opening, right?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
But it makes me excited. Like, I was kind of on the fence. Like, of course I'm going to pick it up because it's Philip Kennedy Johnson. But I was kind of on the fence about, like, okay, am I going to feel this? But with this one, how she gets away, and then the fact that I think it's the John Stewart of that Earth saying that she left her ring, right? And then it shows like she's using her old ring, and it almost looks like a Sapphire kind of logo.
Yeah,
right?
maybe this is the Starfires went bad on this universe or something.
Right. And there's some tie to that, right? So when it hits us, it's still going to be a mystery, because it ends with John and the construct guy looking into the stars, and you get this purple star, right? And it's that ring, seemingly. So it's also Johnson playing with the whole idea of like an epic story, like an epic poem kind of deal too.
Yeah,
so
it's always so
I'm
funny.
excited to see where this goes.
I think what's so funny is if you condense this into just 2 parts, like 2 backup parts, and you cut out most of the stuff that was the fighting, and you had part 1 was just all the stuff that was with John and his mum for the first 2 parts as one part, and then this one you just see the end of this fight. There's a few pages, and just because I feel like I didn't really learn much in those first 2 issues when it came to like the stuff with the fighting. Everything I learned from this last part. So have that, and then what's actually in this here, where it cuts back to John and Guy talking about how he's struggling. That would be enough. That would be like, that would set up everything. I feel like it's suffered by having to stretch that fight and stuff over 3 parts. But yeah, feeling pretty optimistic about this new book now, actually. So
yeah, me too.
That is good. So what are you rating Green Lantern issue 3 overall?
I'm gonna give this overall an 8.5.
Okay, I think I'll just go to straight 8, but I do really like a lot of it. I like the art. Zermanico, like I say, that first page of Hal falling through the sky is gorgeous.
Yeah.
But well, this has been the best of the backups because it did sort of like give it context and make me excited for the book that it's leading into. It still wasn't like super fulfilling, and I think it still maybe dips it down a little bit. And like I say, the ending did feel a little abrupt to the main story, so I'll just go with the 8 out of 10. But I did like a lot of the things in there, especially the Hal and Carol conversation. I thought was really, really good. It really sold how much of a serious big deal Sinestro is, and I think that's really good and smart.